CAD-107, Introduction to 3D Printing. Joe Cerrone, just recording this video conference for today. Let me refresh my screen. So we're working on this final project, and it's project 20, the ring project from the 3D printing projects book. And I've created a video for it. I'm going to need to add one more part because I had a crash as I was showing how to put the logo on it, but it's not that difficult. The way the project is set up, I will put a project file that students can work with for project 20, and I'll add that after this video broadcast meeting. If we look at the project itself, I'm using AutoCAD for it, and I'm going to put it back over into conceptual. That's kind of the finished project, and what I thought would be interesting would be to put an insert on it. And so I'm going to have Alan talk about how to do an insert and slice that CAD model. And so the way this one is set up, if we look at the curriculum for it, and I'm going to have to go back and get it. So this is project number 20. And it's a real basic shape. What I like about this project is that a lot of people use CAD for jewelry design. I've actually had a number of students, and I guess it's not a lot, but there's a significant number of people that are doing that. And to be able to use 3D printing is really pretty cool too, because I think that his design is a little too fundamental. It just looks like a giant Lego to me. But when you get into some of the other things that you can do some pretty cool stuff. He's using Rhino. Rhino is a great software. They do have some industrial design applications for jewelry design in that, and they would use CAD-CAM. And then he's using this NetFab for the STL. Basically, he's just printing it on a 3D printer with a rough resolution of 0.15 millimeters. And the dimensions of the part are right here. And so his basic modeling technique is to basically take and draw this shape right here. If you want, what I would do is to go and measure an existing ring and then use the dimensions for a ring that you already have. And so he's got this 16 millimeter diameter, and then he's got a 19 millimeter by 10 millimeter thickness, puts a little bit of taper on it. And what I've done is I've gone through and laid out how to do this with AutoCAD. And so I have an AutoCAD file here. And in this file, I go through step by step like I have in the other videos. And I'm going to turn off the conceptual because I've had some bad luck today with the screen freezing. And I just basically trace it back step by step until I get to the top view here. And so here's the part right here. And then if we look at the geometry, if I click here, click on one of these grips, you can see that's 8 millimeter radius. And then if I click here, and let's see, I'm not sure if I updated my dim scale on this. No, I did not. A dim scale of about 7 on this metric drawing works very well. And what that'll do is it'll increase the text size so it's reasonable to be able to see it. So we have this 16 millimeter inside diameter, and then he offsets it 1.5 millimeters. And so some of this is just a matter of being able to read his prints. And so 1.5 millimeters. And then what I did was I just drew a couple of center lines and then offset that to get this top edge. And so if I switch back over to my CAD and I measure it, I found it wasn't quite tall enough, 16, 17.5. And then if I was to go through and put a height measurement on this, I made it 1.5 millimeters taller. And so what you'll do is you'll go and model it. And I've got a YouTube video that shows how to do this. So I'm not going to go and do that in today's video brief. And then once you have it trimmed, you can press pull that shape. And then after it's press pulled, 3D rotate it into this position. And then what I did with it was to put some radiuses on here. So I just used I use the 3D interface when I do modeling. And so I'll switch over to 3D modeling. And then what I would do would be to enable the toolbar, show menu bar, tools, toolbars, AutoCAD, and I want the properties, and I want the layers. And they are in the ribbon, but they move them around. And so I like to change and override the colors, and so I'll override the color with something different. I put a fillet on this inside radius, and again, those are in the video. But the one thing that I wasn't able to get was how to put in the oak leaf. And so here's how you would put in the oak leaf. You would put a 3-point UCS on that. And then what you would do would be to insert the oak leaf. And so I'm going to say insert. And what that 3-point UCS is going to do is it's going to set the top of the part so that we can draw on it. And when I insert this, I'm going to say specify the scale on screen and specify the insertion point. And so I'm going to say OK. And then as I put it in, I'm going to say right about here, and then I'm going to just kind of blow it up to about that big. And then I'm going to move it. And I'm going to get out of conceptual, and I'm going to move it. And you want to move it while it's a block, because then all of them move together. And I can kind of get a pretty good idea how that's going to fit. It's a little big, so I'm going to scale it maybe 10% down so that I have a little extra room, 0.9. And then I'm going to make a copy of it. And so I'm going to say copy this from here over to here. Now I can explode it so that I can do some 3D work. If you don't explode it, you won't be able to press pull it or extrude it. And so with those exploded, then what I can do is I can press pull this down 0.5 millimeters, and then I can press pull this up 0.6. I'm going to have it stick out a little bit. And so if we go here and we say press pull, and then I highlight this, and I go down 0.5, and we'll continue with that. And you can see it consumes the sketch when it does that. In other words, you'll see that green leaf disappear. And then once I have that, I'm going to pull these ones up in the other direction. And so I'm going to hit escape. And then I'm going to say, I'm just going to extrude them rather than press pull them, because it just is faster. And I'll go up in this direction, and I'll say 0.6. And that way I'm a little bit taller. And then you can just move this onto the part. I'm going to take a risk here and try to do it. Well, actually, let's leave it in wireframe. Famous last words. But what I can do then is I can just move this. Or let's make a copy of it, because that way, when we 3D print these, I believe Alan is just going to bring this in and bring this. And so rather than to put this on the part, I'm just going to show you because I did this before already. So here's what it looks like. And then we'll export that as an STL. And so you'll come up here. I'm going to save this. And when you turn in your files, turn in the CAD file and the STL. And then I'm going to export, other format. And I'm going to do 2 of them. And so this will be the ring. And then I'll do it again for the oak leaf. And I'm going to turn over the screen to Alan, who's going to show how he sliced it. So I'm going to stop sharing. And then I'm going to see if I can get Alan to join.
All right. So am I sharing right now?
No, it hasn't requested it yet.
That's weird. Give me 1 second here. Come on. I'm not getting the option this time, Joe. Give me 1 second. According to this, here we go. Exit minimized. Okay, here we go.
I think I have to stop my share. It's probably my problem right here.
All right, so I think it's working now.
There we go. You're right.
Okay.
Terrific.
So I'm gonna just start from scratch. So really quick, I'm just gonna bring in the files that Joe made. So he exported the ring and the logo separately. So I'm gonna go ahead and bring in the ring and the logo for the ring. And we're just gonna slice it, but before we do that, we wanna make sure that the ring is oriented with the face of it facing down on the bed. Otherwise, it's gonna be real difficult to print. Alternatively, you can print it facing like this, but you might have trouble getting the logo to fit as an insert. So I'm gonna recommend everyone flip the rings and have them facing the beds. As a bonus, you're gonna get a shiny side if it's on glass, any part that's touching the bed. And then basically, with that being done, I'm gonna, here we go, see if I can move that down. Okay. So medium quality, whatever you guys choose, I recommend medium should be okay. Really quick, we're gonna go through the settings. 2 walls should be sufficient. I'm gonna turn off compensate wall overlaps, fill gaps between walls, nowhere. 20% should be fine. And this is PLA, however, you can choose whatever you'd like with regards to.
And that's a good point. We have some shiny metallic materials that we can print with also. Silk.
Right. So there's 2 things we can do now. We've talked about horizontal expansion in the past and how we've used it for inserts, and we typically reduce the size of the insert. In this case, the insert is going to be small, and since we're printing out the same material, if it's going to be printed on the same build plate, we can try using horizontal expansion, but this time instead of a value of negative 0.25, we can try something smaller like negative 0.15 or 10, because the idea this time is that both the ring main body and the insert are going to be shrank evenly to allow the insert to fit in better. So a little bit different approach, but same strategy. We're gonna try horizontal expansion. So with that being done, I'm gonna go ahead and hit slice and see what happens. Let's go to our layers. So one thing I was kind of worried about is the insert is kind of small. So there's a couple of ways we can fix that, but the easiest way we're going to do it right now, instead of changing the model, is, for one thing, we can resize the ring, because at least for me, it doesn't even fit my finger until you get to 150. So really quick, I'm going to go ahead and do 150 on the ring, and then 150 on the insert, and then we're going to go ahead and slice it. And that should give us what we want to see. We're going to go back to layers. So that's about as good as it's going to get. Either way, this will look fine once you insert it. So that's basically it. That's how we can get an insert into the ring, and using horizontal expansion for both the ring and the insert in this situation.
Thanks, Alan. If you want to give me back the control.
Yeah, let me figure out how to do that. Meeting controls. There we go. Stop share. Okay. Did it release?
Yeah, I believe it did. So I'm going to end the recording. This is the last project, and you don't need to do the slicing. We will do the slicing for you, and that way we can kind of test this out. One thing, Alan, we might want to try to do is to use one of the SLA printers, because they use a different type of resin. We might be able to get something kind of shiny as we look at that. But regardless, next week I will activate the final exam, and so on April 6th, I will activate the final exam for the 3D printing class. It's basically based on the textbook. And so the final exam will be a report on these different types of printing features. And so if we go to the D2L course shell, let me see if I have it. And let's see here. Yeah, so at the present time, it's not shown for the students, but it will be a final exam, and it's going to be based on textbook. I will post any information that you need for that, but essentially it's a take-home exam. It's going to ask you questions about different 3D printing applications. So if we take that, the exam, what is FDM printing? What is SLA? And all of this is available in the textbook, and it's open book. And so your job is to complete this. I'll turn this on next week, and then actually I'll put it on at the end of today, and that way you have some additional time to do that. This will be due no later than midnight on the 6th, and that'll give us kind of a mercy day. The last day is the 13th, and so I will set up the Dropbox so that the final exam is marked due on the 6th at 11:30 p.m. And then the 13th is the last day to turn in any projects. And so if you look at the assignments in the assignment sheets, it's pretty close. It has almost everything in the drop boxes, but I think I need to add one for today's assignment for the ring. With that, I'm going to end this video, and I'll post the minutes for anybody who wasn't able to attend.